Today we're checking out some of the absolute smallest cameras you can buy on the internet. I picked every single one of these up for less than $40 each. So today we're gonna check these things out, take a look at the quality. Most importantly, we're gonna find out if any of these are even worth picking up for yourself or if they're just complete gimmicks. Like always, I'm not gonna waste your time. Let's check these things out. Alright, first up we have this little tiny retro camera. So it looks like it was modeled after a Leica, like a M2 or an M3 or something like that. And the whole box itself, it literally fits in the palm of my hand. I know it comes with some accessories even, and I actually forget which color I even got. So let's get this thing out of the box. And of course, what's a better way to open up these tiny cameras than with a tiny little knife? Alright, so this one I picked up for about $28. And like I said, it's kind of this retro style camera. Now this one says it has a 1-inch screen and then it weighs only 20 grams, which is crazy. So here it is, it comes with some accessories. It looks like a camera strap, USB-C cable, a wrist strap, and then a little keychain and a USB-C dongle. Then of course the user manual. And then this is the little camera right here. Yeah, definitely modeled after a Leica, and this thing feels like a toy. Like, it really does not feel like there's a single electronic component in this. Looks like on the bottom there's a USB-C port and then the micro SD card slot, which there is a micro SD card in there. And it is a 32 gigabyte. So it comes with a 32 gig micro SD card. So this thing has just under a 1-inch screen on the back. It weighs about 20 grams, which is crazy. It has a little fill light up front here, it looks like. Not a flash, just like a little LED light. And then this one supposedly records 1080p video. And then the listing says it takes 12 megapixel photos, but on the back of the box here, it clearly says 2 megapixels. So I'm guessing the box is probably right. It's probably a 2 megapixel camera. Okay, for some reason I can't seem to click this SD card back in place. Yeah, 2 buttons on the side and then 2 buttons on the top. It looks like it's all the buttons on this camera. All right, I'm gonna get the rest of these things unboxed and then we'll actually check them out and take a look at the quality. All right, next up we have this little guy. Now this one's really cool. So it looks like it comes with a battery grip, which is kind of crazy. And then it's shaped just like a regular DSLR. And this one I picked up for about 36 bucks. So I think this is the most expensive camera on here. All right, so it comes with some accessories, USB-C cable, wrist strap, of course a little keychain, and then a camera overview and probably user manual. There we go. So yeah, this thing is definitely just shaped like a DSLR, but obviously really tiny. It also has the biggest screen at like 1.44 inches. It has this flip light up top here. So it flips out, actually kind of a big LED light on there, and it flips up like that, or you can flip it down to save some space. USB-C and SD card slot at the bottom. So this is definitely a little bit bigger than this first one, and it's a little bit heavier as well. So this comes in at 27 grams, and that's probably without the battery grip. With it, it's probably a little bit more, which let's actually lock this thing in. So here it is with the battery grip. That actually looks pretty cool. Like, it legitimately just looks like a mini DSLR. And this one also records 1080p video, but I couldn't find the megapixel count anywhere. Okay, it doesn't seem like it's powering on, so I'm gonna have to plug this thing in and charge it up first, probably. So I'm gonna plug this one in and then we'll grab the next one. All right, next up we got this one right here. So another kind of DSLR shaped one, but this is really tiny. I'm pretty sure it's quite a bit smaller than this one. So this one I picked up for $25. And it also, just like most of these, has a little LED light up top. Comes with a bunch of accessories and an SD card. This one records 1080p video, which it also says right up front there. It has a 0.96 inch display, so just under a 1-inch display. And this one only weighs 19 grams. I'm telling you, like, you can barely feel these sitting on your hand, and there's somehow batteries, there's an SD card, USB-C port, there's a screen, an actual camera sensor and lens, and it only weighs 19 grams. That's just so crazy to me how that's even possible. Looks like USB-C cable, wrist strap, USB-C to USB-A adapter, and actually a micro SD card reader, which is kind of cool. Then of course the little keychain. Oh, this one's actually micro USB, so not USB-C. Definitely would have preferred USB-C, but I guess it is what it is. And there we go, powered right up. All right, there we go. Next up, let's grab the last one, which is actually the lightest camera out of all these. All right, here we go. This is like a tiny little point and shoot style camera. This one I picked up for $26. So let's get this thing open. And it looks like this one's called the Tiny Pixel. All right, so we got the user manual. Looks like wrist strap, little keychain, USB adapter, USB-C cable, so this one's got USB-C, and then the little tiny camera itself. This one looks really simple, has the little LED up front here, USB-C port on the bottom, it comes with an SD card, actually a 64 gigabyte SD card, so biggest SD card out of all these cameras. And like I mentioned, this is the lightest out of all these. This one only weighs 18 grams, and again, you can barely even feel this sitting on your hand. So same as most of the others, this has a 0.96 inch display, so just under a 1-inch display. Awesome, and it looks like with the 64 gig card, we can hold 99,999 photos. And that's probably just the max limit that it can show. So this can hold about 100,000 photos, supposedly, on the 64 gig SD card. I forgot if I mentioned it, but this one also records 1080p video, just like all the rest of these. And this one also doesn't mention the megapixel count anywhere, so probably 2 megapixels like the rest of these as well. All right, here's all the cameras side by side, so you can really see how tiny these things are. All there's left to do now is test these things out, get some photo and video examples, and find out if any of these are even worth picking up. Let's go do that. Okay, just to give you an idea of the quality and the quality control of these types of cameras in general, during the unboxing of this, I took the SD card out for the first time and tried to put it back in, and it will not lock back in the camera. It still detects it if I hold it in there with my finger, but the SD card won't lock back in place. And that was straight out of the box, like the first time trying this. So I feel like this kind of worked out perfect, so I can open this thing up and not really feel bad about it, and we can take a look at just all the components inside of this. Because at the price of these, for like $20 or $30, when you think about the packaging, shipping, manufacturing process, obviously all that takes money as well. And then at the end of the day, you're still getting a camera that actually works. Like, it turns on, it functions, it has a battery, a sensor, a lens. So I'm really curious to actually see what's inside of these. So let's not waste any more time. Let's break this thing open. I don't see any screws or anything, but there is a seam right down the middle. So it's either glued together or maybe there's little clips or something. My guess is it's just glued together because I don't think they expect anybody to actually open these things up. There we go. It actually might be just clipped together. All right, see the rechargeable battery. There's a little battery right there. I think it was like a couple hundred milliamp hours is what it said on the box. All right, see the little ribbon cable connectors. Open that up, there we go. Get that off, all right. So there's the inside. Then let's see, of course we got the battery and that's just soldered in there. And then yeah, just, I guess a little motherboard. We got the SD card slot right there. That takes up like probably a third of the whole inside there. USB-C port right on the bottom. Then a couple screws there so I can pull this motherboard off and we can kind of get all these electronics out of here. Okay, and then lastly, oh, looks like the microphone up front. Oh, so there's a little sensor unit, sensor and lens all in that one unit there. There's the full internal components right there. All right, on the other side here, we have that front LED light right there, and then all the other random little components. Yeah, it actually seems like it's designed surprisingly well to kind of have everything packed in there as tight as it can be in the smallest little shell. All right, that was cool, but let's actually check out the real working ones. All right, I'm recording in 1080p 30 frames per second with my iPhone 16 Pro Max, and this is on the front camera. And I'm also recording in 1080p 30 frames per second with this camera right here. So you can see the difference in quality between these two at the exact same resolution and frame rate. And then I'm also recording just with the built-in microphones on both of these. So this is the built-in iPhone mic, and this is the built-in mic from this camera at about an arm's length away. So when it comes to purely the features and design, this white one is definitely the coolest. It has a really intuitive battery grip that has USB-C pass-through. It has charge level indicators on it. It has this neat little flip-out flash so you can put it down and save some space if you need to. And it is the most realistic looking design out of these other cameras. So yeah, like both of these other ones combined is pretty much the same size as this one right here. And also, as you've probably seen at this point, the photo and video quality is really not that great. The 1080p video, I really don't think it's true 1080p. It could just be because of how tiny these sensors are, but the video looks so muddy. It really does not look like 1080p at all. And the photos also look very muddy and really low resolution. And that's really just what you should expect no matter what out of these types of cameras, any of these brandless cameras you can get online. They're gonna be pretty bad quality and they're gonna be really misleading in, you know, their listings, their descriptions, and all the information they give you. So definitely make sure you know that before you even look into any of these types of cameras. The quality is gonna suck, but that's also kind of what you lean into with these types of cameras. They're just meant to capture your daily life, give you a little bit of that vintage look and things like that. Again, a lot of people do like this aesthetic, and that's why I think these can be worth buying, especially for like $20 or $30. But you really just need to make sure you understand what you're getting yourself into when it comes to the quality with these. So this one definitely has the coolest looking filters on it. It has a bunch of different like infrared and kind of like night vision looking filters. They don't actually do anything like that, but I do think they're definitely more interesting than the filters on these other cameras that are pretty much just like red, blue, yellow, green filters and things like that. Also, this one actually doesn't have like an LED fill light up top here. It's just an indicator light. So it's red or blue depending on if you're charging it, if the camera's powered on, but it's not actually meant for illuminating or for a flash or anything like that. So definitely keep that in mind. Other than that, this one has pretty similar quality to the rest of these when it comes to the photos and videos coming out of it. It's really not that great, but if you want to lean into that style and lean into that effect, it's really great for that. So like I mentioned, this is the smallest and lightest out of all these cameras. It's probably one of my favorites to carry around because of that. And just one thing to note with this one, I can't seem to turn the flash off for photos. So every time you take a photo, it flashes. But when it comes to videos, you can choose whether to have the light continuously on or off. But just keep in mind, every time you take a photo, whether it's bright or dark out, it's gonna have that little flash up front. But that's really all there is to mention with this one. So I'm curious to know what you think in the comments. Are these things worth the price? I really think they can be worth it just for the unique factor and if you really know what you're getting yourself into when it comes to the quality. I've personally had a ton of fun carrying these things around with me and I might just throw one on my keychain. But let me know what you think down in the comments. Would you buy one of these? Do you think it's worth it?